Hello, and welcome to another Steel Division Divisional overview. And today we're taking a look at the first SS Panzer Division, which is a Panzer Division mixed in with some Infantry Division elements, also making it one of the best Infantry Divisions for the Axis. So without further ado, let's take a look at how they build up. So, in terms of slots, you got a lot of infantry, lots of tanks, and pretty mediocre for everything else. A rather standard 36 activation points, and if you look at the economy, you got 70 points in A phase, 130 in B, and the same in 130 in C phase, so a pretty simple point economy, yeah. And well, let's just jump right into the recon, which is pretty barren. You don't get a lot of recon units, but you get lots of stars, and we're going to be seeing a lot of veterancy for all of these units. So you got option between Pumas and A, B, and C phase with more Pumas per phase. The only ground infantry in A phase or all clears in 222s, only one per card, which is pretty terrible card efficiency rise. And then B phase and C phase you got some spar troops, so a pretty simple basic recon loadout. You're not going to be getting an awful lot, and that's one of the hindrances of this division. What's not a hindrance though is the infantry tab, as you get all the infantry options and all the stars, and it's a really good infantry tab. Your leader units are Pioneer Furies in A phase, so you get ×2 of 2-star veterancy. You get Panzer Grenadier Furies in B phase, and then more Panzer Grenadier Furies in C phase. So not a lot in terms of leader numbers, but they got 2-star veterancy, so they definitely make up for it with a huge command aura. Now, one of the main infantry units you're going to be using as first assassin really should be using Adler Deutsch, which are essentially just a Panzer Grenadier squad, but 10 points cheaper, and the major difference is they are disheartened. They don't have any veterancy as well because they are a disheartened unit. They're very good, considering it's the exact same loadout as a Panzer Grenadier squad. You're still going to wreck allied infantry in open ground engagements as you have the two bloody MG42s. I mean, the lack of veterancy and disheartened hurts you, but considering they're 25 points, that's extremely spammable. They don't come in half-tracks, and the majority of infantry, pretty much all infantry in A phase, don't have any half-tracks, which is one of the gimmicks of first SS, kind of more of a infantry focused. You got Stern Pioneers in A phase as well. They have 2-star veterancy, definitely a good unit as they help out in town fights early on. Then you got regular Panzer Grenadiers, which, you know, I'd honestly take the Volksdeutsche, but we'll get into that later. And then you also got machine gun teams. The 2-star MG42 machine gun teams, I'm usually not a big fan of machine gun teams. I just think half-tracks do the job much better. But these 2-star MG42s are pretty good. And also considering you don't have many half-tracks in A phase, these aren't a bad card to take. I still personally would not recommend it. In B phase is where you start to finally get some half-track dudes. You got SS Stormtroops, which are kind of like the Sturm Grenadiers for second SS, but it's only a 5-man squad instead of 10, so they lose a bit of firepower, but it's still fully vested TG-44s, so that's rather damaging. 2-star veterancy. You got Pioneers, you got Panzer Grenadiers, and that's pretty much your B phase. Then once you hit the C phase, a crap ton of Volksdeutsche per card. This is pretty much like British rifle spam amount of infantry. More Pioneers, more Panzer Grenadiers, and yeah, that's really it. So you got a lot of slots, and you get quite a healthy amount of numbers. You're not going to be running out of Panzer Grenadiers or really infantry in any case for the first SS. And if you thought the infantry tab was good, let's take a look at the tank tab, because by God, it is nutty for first SS. You got no tanks in A phase, so it's kind of a lie. So we're going to be starting to B phase. You got Panzer IV Js. You only get them ×2, but they do have 2-star veterancy, and they are pretty cheap. And then the Panzer IV H. Now, if you don't know, the big difference between the J and the H is the turret rotation. As you see, if your turret actually rotate, please, Mr. Panzer IV H. I see it rotates pretty fast, not, pretty standard stuff. Panzer IV J, it is much slower, as you can tell. And that is a rather it can be a rather big hindrance, and is a hidden thing that you have to consider, as that slower turret time is gonna make it so it's harder for you to acquire onto target. And most of the time what happens, I find, is the Panzer IV is like facing the wrong way because it's choosing infantry in it. A Sherman comes around the corner to the right of it, and then it just takes too long to acquire a target, and Sherman gets blown up. So just be advised when using Panzer IVJs, as that's how they usually die. But it's 20 points cheaper in the H, so, you know, as a balance. And also the Panzer IVHs are only 130 points. You can get 1 per minute. And 10 points cheaper compared to regular Panzer IVHs, as Panzer IVHs in other decks are 140 points. So it's already pretty good. You get quite a lot of employee discounts for this division. You got BEF Stug Freeze for 2-star veterancy. They're a bit overpriced for, you know, what it is, but still not a bad choice as it gives you a bit of extra leader units. You also got Panthers in B phase. No Panther Ds though, you only got the Panther Gs available in said B phase, and the Panther Gs is one of the best Panthers you can get, as it has 7 accuracy on its gun compared to the regular 6 that all the other Panthers take, the D and A model, that is. So it's a good vehicle. You got more Panzer IVs in C phase, and then you got the Panther Ds, which is one of the biggest memes of this division. It's usually a Panther D is 250 points, but because you are Adolf Hitler's number 1, you have them for only 200 points. You got a pretty insane discount on these Panther Ds. And we're going to get more into it later. And then you got 1 BEF Panther as well. So you got a lot of tanks with lots of veterancy at a cheaper price. It's a very good tank tab. A really good tank tab. You also have a really good support tab. As you notice, everything about this division is really bloody good. Support, you got 232s, pretty standard stuff. You got some Flam Panzers in A and B phase. And then you got IG-18s, which is usually regulated to infantry divisions, but because this is first SS, they got some infantry division equipment. IG-18s are pretty damn good, especially with veterancy, and especially when they come with a half-track. And considering later on we're going to see I don't have much in terms of anti-tank guns, IG-18s are pretty useful in not necessarily the blowing up role of what anti-tank guns do, but for hiding in a tree line and just suppressing tanks at long range with its HE cannon. You also have an A-phase grill, and I usually wouldn't recommend taking a grill, but this A-phase grill of the 1-star veterancy isn't that bad, as it can provide some pretty useful fly support of its Death Star cannon. Still not the best thing to take, but considering, you know, what the other divisions get for their grills, this is not too bad. You don't get supply trucks in A phase, as you have to wait till B phase to get supply trucks with ×2 per card, and then C phase you got the Robin ×4. And then more IG-18s, but the big game changer is this C phase card of autocannon half tracks. This is absolutely a no-brainer. You want to take this every single time, as it gives you some very important like fire support in the later stages with 2-star veterancy, and you can do some pretty crazy flanking maneuvers once the later stages of the game hits, and you can just buy. How many can you buy per minute? I believe it's, you can get 3 per minute. Yeah, you can get 3 per minute of these guys. So in 2 minutes you can buy all 6 and just rush down a road, and hopefully you can flank the enemy force behind enemy lines. It's a bit of a meme, but it's a rather fun vehicle. Anti-tank. So the main thing is, you got actual tanks in your anti-tank tab. You got these Stugs. Now, it could be a good argument whether Stugs should be in the anti-tank tab to begin with, but that's a whole another thing. But these Panzerjäger Stugs are pretty similar to regular Stugs. This is a G model and this is the F model. The major differences is the discount. This is only 110 points for a Stug, where usually I believe these are like what? Like 150 points usually? Yeah, these ones are usually 150, and these chaps are usually 160 points, so pretty major discount. And the only disadvantage is you have less HE ammo. I believe you usually get 15 or so HE ammo for Stug. You only got 6 for both of these chaps, but that's not really a huge hindrance, as it's still like, It's a proper tank in A phase. You got proper tanks in A phase as an Axis division, which is a pretty rare thing. The only other divisions that really get proper all-rounder tanks is 2nd SS with the Panzer IVs, and then 17th SS Panzer Grenadier with the single Stug 3 F model. And now I'm just realising it's only the SS divisions that have proper tanks in A phase. B phase, you got some Panzerschrecks, which are, okay. You don't really need Panzerschrecks in this division, it's definitely something you can skip. And then the few AT guns you can get are just some lowly Pak 40s. More Panzer Jägerstugs in B and C phase, and more Panzerschrecks. So it's a pretty good anti-tank tab, it's just actually lacking in anti-tank guns. Anti-air is a bit unorthodox. In A phase, you got the 7-2, which is usually not something you see in A phase, but it has the veteranry. It's pretty bloody good. It's a Flak 36 on the back of a motorized vehicle, so that's good for a tank division. You also got Flak 20 mils in the back of another Flak 20 mil, similar to 2nd Panzer Division, but they don't have any veteranry, so they're not that great. What does have veteranry, though, are these Gepards, which are usually a rather meme unit, and you don't see Gepards all that often. But with 2-star veterancy, these are really bloody good, as that veterancy makes these rather deadly. And considering the income of this division, you can get 2 of these guys per minute, and you can just spread them out all over. If they get killed, it doesn't matter, you can get a lot more. And by God, you can get a lot more Gepards. He's really going to be your main anti-aircraft unit, which seems a bit silly, but you really cannot underestimate what these guys can do with 2-star veterancy, potentially up to 3-star of a leader unit. And then you got some Flank 88s, which are alright. I don't like using it for this division, as they're just not mobile, and you kind of want the mobility for this division. Artillery is a mixture between a Panzer division and an Infantry division. You got pretty much options for everything. You got A-phase mortar half-tracks with 2-star veterancy. These are pretty good, but you gotta realise you have no A-phase supply trucks, so those 30 shots are only 30 shots. Make your shots count. B-phase, you got neighbour Earthers. These are the only rocket artillery for this division, so make these guys count as well. Make sure not to lose them. You got regular mortar half-tracks, ×3 per card, which is really outstanding. Regular towed artillery, they're pretty useless. Don't take these guys, they're not mobile, and honestly, yeah, regular towed artillery is just not good, as they can actually get counter artillery because they are not armoured in a metal box. What is armoured in a metal box is a rest, which is pretty much the same thing as this, but in a metal box. 40 points more, take them, it's worth the price. Single Panzer IV Wolf map artillery, pretty meh, you don't really need it. SK-18, pretty meh, you don't really need it, it's slow, it's immobile. You got Hummel, which is better in the SK-18, yes it doesn't have the range, but you really do not need 4 kilometer range. What you do need is 27 HE. 27 HE is always great, but it's a bit expensive, you kind of want to be spamming Panthers, you don't really need the Hummels. And then you got Panzer IV-H with a larger off-map artillery barrage, which is something also you don't really need. So pretty alright artillery tab, just stick with the mortar half-tracks, rests, and neighbour Earthers. That's really the best advice I can give you. The air tab, you only get really 1 per card for most airplanes, except for the ×2 for the J180H, but you got an option for 1 of everything. It's like Noah's Ark, but cut in half. You got 1 Focke-Wulf in A-phase with 2-star veterancy. You also got Ju-87Gs, which is pretty good, and they're a pretty good A-phase anti-tank unit, especially against more heavily armoured A-phase armoured divisions, such as Guards Armoured, Pose, 4th Armoured. They can be rather vital. The B-phase, Focke-Wulf also has a C-phase run too, so that's really all the fighters you can get. You got B1 and a B3, and you got Ju-188 with the big 1,000 kilogram bomb bunker busters. So that's pretty much all of units for the 1st SS Division. So let's take a look at the deck I built earlier. Once again, the deck code is in the description below. And this is a pretty standard, I'd say, 1st SS deck. And well, let's take a look as my phone vibrates. So, Recon tab, we're not going to get a lot of Recon, but we're going to take in the 1 All Clear and the 1 Puma. For our A phase recon, your clear is going to be very important. Make sure he doesn't die, as you're going to want him to spot stuff. And then the spar troops for spotting as well. You want to keep the recon alive. Make sure they're on hold fire, especially for these guys, as you need them to spot stuff. Even though spar troops are pretty good for combat, for this division, no combat. They just look for their binoculars and just spot stuff for your tanks and infantry to do the killing. Infantry, we're just Volksdeutsche spam. We're just spamming all of Volksdeutsche. We got a total of, if I can do math real fast, 24 Volksdeutsche squads, which is more than enough. More than enough. You're going to spam them everywhere. They're great, they're wonderful, they're cheap, they're good. We got the Stern Pioneers and A phase, as we're going to need them for helping fight in towns. As long as you can micro these guys well, they will pay off rather well. And some asset stormtroops for more of the same thing. Then 2 leader cards, as we can need the leadership to help out. If we go over to the tank tab, I prefer the H's over the J, as I think losing the turret rotation speed is that big of a deal. So I prefer the H's. I mean, it's really just apples or oranges here. Both are good cards in this case. Usually I'd say in every other deck, even in 9th Panzer where you can get 1 per minute, the J is not a great pick. The H is much better. But for first assess, considering how deeply discounted everything is, they're both good. I like the BEF Stug, even though it's not a great combat unit. It's useful just for a bit of extra leadership. And also it has 2-star veterancy. It helps makes up for its rather terrible armor value. Then we take the B phase Panther, of course, if we need something heavy. And then we're in C phase it, we just spam Panther Ds. We get lots of Panther Ds. And the Panther D being 200 points is crazy. Because in 2 minutes, we earn 260 points for 1st SS Panzer Division. Meaning, every 2 minutes, we can buy a Panther D. We have 60 points left over, and then we can buy 2 Volksdeutsche squads. And you got, 10 points left over. And you just do the same thing every 2 minutes. You buy 2 Volksdeutsche and a Panther. 2 Volksdeutsche and a Panther. The Volksdeutsche slowly move up, spot stuff, and the Panther just sits back and blows everything to smithereens. It's really good. And we got the BEF Panther. So we got 6 Panthers in total. This is all the heavy tanks. Yeah, we're going to take. I think 6 is more than enough. If you are feeling like you need more heavy armor, feel free to just knock out one of these guys and take the ×4 per card. But I like veterancy. Veterancy is pretty good. Support tab, taking 232 for even more leadership, because we want all leadership that we can get. 1 card of A phase IG-18s for some, just for good defensive support. If we want to hold a flank for a discount, plop an IG-18 over there, and you usually do pretty well. B phase supply truck, you're only going to be taking 1 supply truck in B phase, and that's our only supply truck really, or supply trucks I should really say. I find it to be more than enough, as we'll see once we get to the artillery tab. More IG-18s, because IG-18s are great, and considering we don't really have many anti-tank guns, these are pretty useful just for holding areas, as they don't have actual AT capabilities, but we got enough tanks to make up for that. And then, of course, the autocannon half-tracks. Anti-tank tab. So the only A-phase anti-tank I forgot to mention earlier is the Panzerjäger Stugs. So, you don't have the anti-tank guns, which is a bit of an issue, but you also got proper tanks too, as well as a Puma. So it's not too bad. It's not too bad at all. So you're going to be taking 2 of them, which I think is more than enough. Some people like to take 3, but 2, a couple, it's more than enough. B-phase Pack 40 just for some anti-tank capabilities, as being able to have something to ambush a unit in a tree line is still always worthwhile. And they also have 1-star veterancy, which is nice. And then the B-phase Panzerjäger Stug card, because it's a pretty good tank card. And yeah, not surprising, lots of Gepards, and then the 7-deaths to an A-phase. It's a lot of cheap anti-air, and it's all mobile, which is great. Artillery, we're taking 1 A-phase mortar half-track. Just as long as you're careful with the shots, it will definitely pay out rather well. The B-phase Neighborwerfer, because it's Neighborwerfer. You do not say no to Neighborwerfers. And then the B-phase mortar half-tracks. The Resp is also a good choice compared to the mortar half tracks. I'm personally a much bigger fan of mortar half tracks, as I feel like I only really need the more closer direct fire support. 1.2 kilometer range, if you can, you know, move around the map efficiently, is more than enough to deal with anti-tank guns. Even longer range anti-tank guns you have 1.2 kilometer ranges. There's always a line of sight blocker somewhere to place a mortar half track. If you feel like if you need something a bit more powerful and a bit more longer range, the Resp is also a decent choice. With the mortar half track, you can buy one per minute and have money left over, so these are good to buy in a pinch. And in the air power, 2 fighters and then a Ju-87G just to help out with the anti-tank in A phase. That's a bit of a weakness, is the lack of AT guns in A phase. So Ju-87G makes up for that. So overall, the pros of this deck, almost everything. This entire deck is really bloody good. You got Veterancy, you got Voideutsche spam, you got cheap Panthers, IG-18s, good air power, good artillery, good AA, everything's really bloody good. Apart from 2 things, really. And those 2 cons being the lack of recon, which is a pretty big deal, as you're going to probably run into a lot of anti-tank guns with first assess if you're not on top of keeping your recon units alive. So it's rather important to use like the few half tracks that you will have to just kind of run in front and take 17-pounder shots for you, and just trying to, you know, mark those AT guns and knock them out quickly, as they're one of the biggest banes to your division. Because tank-on-tank fights, with all the Panther Ds, with all the veterancy, you're not going to be having too much of an issue with Fireflies. And also the other con is the lack of actual anti-tank guns, which, I mean, I'm not a big fan of using anti-tank guns to begin with, as what usually happens, anti-tank gun shoots, it then gets artilleried and shot at oblivion, while tanks can usually survive being shot at because they're in a giant metal box, while an anti-tank gun is an exposed anti-tank gun. But still, having just some anti-tank guns, even crappier ones, is still useful, as they're cheap. You can plop them on a flank to defend an area, and just being able to ambush enemy units by hiding in a tree line and waiting for them to get close instead of having to drive around a tree line, right, turn the gun, aim, and then fire, is a bit of a disadvantage. Now, a good question is first SS Panzer overpowered? I would just say they are a bit overpowered. They're not as bad as 4th Armoured was on release, and I don't think we'll ever get to 4th Armoured, just how goddamn ridiculously powerful they were when 4th Armoured literally came out. But First SS has a lot going for it. I think the discount tanks is a little bit crazy, especially the 200-point Panthers and the Voideutsche. But balancing it would be a bit of an issue too. The Voideutsche is a pretty tricky thing to balance, as for 25 points, they're too cheap. But for 30 points, they're not really that good. For 30 points, you might as well just take the regular Panzer Grenadiers, as you don't have the Disheartened and you have the Veterancy over the Voideutsche. So it's iffy. It's kind of like one of the problems with using the 5-point system, is that you can't make, you know, more minute tweaks with it. It's not as bad as how the Raw game 5-point system was. But, yeah, First SS is definitely on the higher scale of the power level. And there's a good reason why in the Steel Division League, these guys are banned pretty much all the time, constantly, as they're so hard to fight in a 1v1, as once you face it, they just get all the Panthers. I mean, they don't have the best early game compared to other Panzer divisions, but you still have a pretty good fighting chance. So, I think that's enough rambling, so let's see how First SS actually performs within a match. And here we are on Column Bells. We have Task 4th playing as the 1st Infantry Division, and Bumblebee Potato showcasing the 1st SS Panzer Division, which is rather fitting. If we take a look at the deck for Bumblebee Potato, there's quite a few similarities. The Voideutsche spam, the Recon is going to be taking another autoplay instead of more spar troops. But the tank tab is pretty much all the Panthers that he can take reasonably, and only one Panzer 4J. And he's going to be more of his medium tanks, all in the anti-tank tab, with all the Panzerjäger stugs. He's going to be taking Flam Panzers over AG-18s. He's going to be taking Rasps over the mortar half-tracks, no neighbor Earthers, and all the fighters, all the 2-star fighters, as well as one Ju-87G. So there's a few similarities. Once again, it's all different strokes for different blokes. Both decks, I'd say, are pretty viable. And so let's take a look at how this match will actually deploy. We got the Stug going left. He's not going to be sending. He's going to be sending a bit into the town. Is that 2 flamethrower squads with their 2 leaders and the Volkdeutscher and just 1 Volkdeutscher on the right. The factory is definitely going to go into Tars's favour. He has the CQC focus infantry division for starts an engagement. You're going to have Tars in this match. They're going to have a bit of a hard time fighting all the potential Stugs. There's 3 Stugs as well as a Puma and A-phase, which is a pretty hefty amount of A-phase armour for the Axis. So taking a look, he's actually going heavy into the factory with his infantry, just defending right. And then it's going to be down to the Puma and Stug to try and move along the left-hand flank. Tars, is this a big gun? No, it's just a 6-pounder, so it still can be a bit of a threat, as it doesn't have anything to range the 6-pounder at long range, but the infantry are going to be a bit of a cakewalk. And it's pretty smart for Tars getting all the bazookas, as he's going to need those bazookas to blow everything up. As the armor full Bumblebee is going to be his major weakness. He's going to be getting 1 recon unit into the factory. It's a bit ballsy. I mean, it's definitely a dangerous area for that recon unit to be. You got to realize he only has 4 infantry recon in his entire deck, which is not great. He's going to be getting Volkdeutscher into the forest. Yeah, he's probably going to lose against the American infantry teams, but he has a fire support nearby. They're just here to take fire, essentially. You do have the factory fight going on, and he does lose his Pioneer Führer. He's actually got both of them into the factory, mainly just for the satchel charges. He needs all the CQC he can get, and the leader units are spared no expense. This Pioneer dropping in some smoke. He's got the rifles on hold fire, or deactivated, so it's only for the flamethrowers. But the American flamethrower teams aren't going to win this engagement, as they're just much larger. The Volkdeutscher holding ground. And amazingly, Tars going to be falling back with his assault teams. It probably would have been a good idea for him to smoke and just try to move up here, but he's just going to be playing defensively. Left hand side, Volkdeutscher just get rickety ranked, but now Bumblebee knows what is inside the forest. I'm going to take a look at Bumblebee's perspective, and as you can see, for first assess, you're pretty blind. His only recon unit is in the middle here, and it just has terrible line of sight. I think he just got it over here, just so he can have a 2-2-2. But it's all about being shot out first with the Volkdeutscher to do the shooting back. He's going to be getting his 2nd recon unit on the left outside his recon infantry. And after this, he only has 2 recon infantry left for the entirety of the match. He's got 1 Puma, 1 far left, and that's really it. A bit of a skirmish between both flamethrower troops, ducking in and out of the buildings. Being going to flame and assault breaches, but Tars is going to do good micro and manages to get out of dodge. So pretty slow A-phase for Bumblebee. I mean, he has the territory just thanks to the Volkdeutscher on the far left, and in the middle just grabbing a lot of rather easy ground. He does see the anti-tank gun. Does he see it? Yeah, he does, as it's shooting at his infantry. That's how you're going to spot stuff with first attack. You're going to get shot at first, and then you hope you can return fire. In the middle, we do have the DD being brought in, and that's definitely going to be our pain in the ass. There's no anti-tank here, but Bumblebee can easily just rip out a Panjäger Stug to fight it. Which is a pretty even matchup against that Sherman. Hopefully 2-2-2 doesn't get... Well, the Recon Infantry manages to jump out, which is good, but the 2-2-2 may want to get out of dodge of that 6-pounder here. And the All-Clayer may want to run away as well. We've got the second All-Clayer moving into position. I think he's trying to get a line of sight on that AT gun, as that's a very high priority target. It would also be a good idea for Bumblebee to maybe get artillery piece, the mortar half-track, to try to knock out his AT guns, but he's going to be engaging it head-on with the Panjäger Stug, which is definitely a bit risky. I mean, if he had the Stug and the Puma engage at the same time, yeah, and it could probably work out, and then he could beat the 6-pounder. And he's going to be moving the Puma around. He's going to be engaging the assault breaches. And that AT gun has now fully exposed himself. It's a free-to-run fight. And the 6-pounder is just going to miss at 222. It hit a bit too wide. And the Panzerjäger using its last HE shot to suppress that 6-pounder, which is very important. Now, if he can get the kill here, yeah, and it'd be really good for Bumblebee, as that'd really open up his whole left-hand flank here. He still has to deal with the infantry inside his forest. And he doesn't really have any CQC guys to help maneuver around yet. But he's playing the open fields to his advantage, and that's exactly what he's doing. Moving the Puma around the far side. You don't want to get close, as there could be bazookas in there, and there are bazookas in there. And the bazookas are trying to get into range, but they get spotted by the Puma and immediately destroyed. The recon optics on the Puma definitely saving it, yeah. And it's dug free now behind enemy lines. We've got the Sherman moving in. We've got the Sherman in the middle. Going to be standing up the 222 as it falls back. But if the Sherman gets a bit too close, the Feuchtdeutsche do have the Panzerfaust. Here we go, Sherman coming in. A little bit ballsy. Fortunately, he's going towards the sternplane here. And he's going to be opening fire point blank range. And it's just a long range firefight between assault teams and Bumblebee's infantry. And his Sherman's now in a great position to get some good flanking shots as he emerges through the smoke victorious. But he doesn't have any line of sight as he's still technically in the smoke. Just to move forward just a little bit more. On the left-hand flank, the stun getting forced back by the Sherman DD. He's behind enemy lines where he's taking a morale debuff. And the Puma, oh, pretty terrible hit here on the Puma. Still has some AP ammo, thankfully. And now Tar's going to be using some air power, P-38 Lightnings. It's going to be pretty important for Tar to use his air power to his effect. As that's going to be, for 1st Infantry, I do have some rocket planes, I believe, which will be important in keeping the Panthers and Panzers all array. At the same time, he has to fight against 3 Luftwaffe fighter races, which is pretty difficult. Still on the far right, just going to be keeping it hidden. It's just if any tomfoolery happens on the right hand side. And the sternplane here going down the middle. He has managed to keep him alive for a pretty long time against, I'd say, an overwhelming force. That is good for Bumblebee. Once B face it, he has all the pioneers in his deck, which is definitely going to help out in retaking said factory if he decides to do that. The Stark on the right hand side, finding the opportunity, and Stuart is pretty much a goner. And 232 come in to give some fire support. And even though Bumblebee hasn't managed to make tremendous ground, he has actually lost some now in the later stages of A phase, my bad. As the Sherman manages to clear out the tanks on left. But once B phase hits, you know, you can get some Panthers. You know, they're a little bit expensive this early on. More Stugs and the Pioneers, which will be pretty important. And he's going to be getting the first fighter out, going to be straight from the 6-pounder. And those anti-tank guns are definitely a high priority target for 1st SS. And AA gun finishing it off. Got P-38 Lightning chasing. I believe the Lightning it's the same speed as the Focke-Wulf. The Focke-Wulf is a better fighter. And it has the veteran G2, so if he can get on his tail, that is. 232 flanking around left hand side. A little bit ballsy, yeah? As the Sherman DD is in position. And he just runs right into the assault bazooka. And amazingly, the assault bazooka misses. With 2 stealth infantry with 2 bazookas. Which is a little bit sad, but he manages to get the second shot off. Puma manages to get a lucky kill out on the Sherman. And it's still a dogfight between the P-38 and the Lightning. You know, that M15 combo is going to scare away the Focke-Wulf. But the same with the 7-2, scaring off the P-38. So Taurus is holding the town. He does have the slight point advantage. The little flanks aren't looking good as left-hand side is, once the infantry's gone, it's pretty open. We've got an AT gun being brought in. Hopefully for TARS it is a 76mm. And yes, it is. Those 76mm are going to be rather devastating to Bumblebee if he doesn't manage to, engage him fast enough. And we've got some shirts on the right-hand side just for defense. So he's keeping him rather back. And TARS is just moving through the factory and he's going to completely capture the area. Puma moving up. A bit ballsy out of no MG ammo. It's really just AP shots. Does lose the stug here to the 76mm. He does have eyes on. See Bumblebee's eyes on. He's pretty good eyes on left thanks to the Puma, but as you see in the middle and right, completely blind. And that is one of the major disadvantages of first assess, is that you are playing blind an awful lot. It's not something you really think about all too much, just recon units and just being able to spot stuff. But with first assess, that's if you're not good with your recon infantry and you don't get enough, and maybe he is getting a smart troop on right, which is something Bumblebee desperately needed. It can be rather difficult. Because you have to be so conservative with your recon troops. He has managed to keep all of his recon alive so far. Even keeping up Pumas alive rather important for the recon optics, as it is only mobile recon unit. So in later stages, if it keeps the Puma alive and keeps it behind his Panther pushes, the Puma is there for reconnaissance purposes, which is what he needs. In the middle, he's bringing in a Stug and a Panzer IV as well as some infantry. I believe those are most likely. Yep, those are pioneers. To try and retake the factory. And his best bet is just to, sit along range, use the pioneers to draw fire, and then just return fire on the assault teams with the Panzer IVs. And he's going to be microing his pioneers in and out, as you don't want to stay around too long for the assault teams, so the assault teams are starting to run low on flamethrower. This one is starting to run low on flamethrower ammunition. Stun killing the M5. And Bumblebee making a bit of a push on the right hand side. Getting that Stug into position to kill the Stuart, but Stuart's going to fall back, which is good for the Stuart. And the 76mm gun, not in the best position, but still going to be a rather deadly threat if the Stug decides to come around the corner, as he's just not going to see it. But still, Bumblebee just playing slow, playing conservatively. He's going to begin a rest, which is definitely a good choice in this matchup, as he wants to be knocking out his artillery guns ASAP. I mean, anti-tank guns ASAP. And another Panzer IV on right, help with his push. And then he's using the Focke-Wulf to strafe the 76. We've got 2-star Lightning now and anti-air, so will the Focke-Wulf get out? I don't think so. And he is going to be losing one of his 3 fighters, and Rocket Run from the P-38 is going to be stunning up the Panzer Jaeger. And the Panzer IV is going to get the kill on the 76, which is a damn good kill. And as you can see, Bumblebee, he's just, why go through the factory when you can just go around it? And go around it he shall. There's still the Sherman there, which is still a bit of a threat, but we've got the Panzer IV moving up. We've got Stug moving up into position to try and get a kill on it. So it's rather tricky for the Sherman. And yeah, Bumblebee, he's really just getting the medium tanks, and honestly, all he really needs are the medium tanks. As for, I'm trying to think of words here real fast. For 1st Infantry Division, there's not really many there's no heavy tanks you have to worry about. It's only 10 and 9 armor Shermans you have to fight against, so Panzer IVs and Stugs are more than enough. It's not even Wolverines. So, it's really good. Tank hunting territory for Bumblebee, and now he's completely surrounded the town. Does lose the Panzer IV, but getting a bit too close to the Assault Bazooka. Does pay with its life, and it's really just a rifle squad and assault team holding the factory. Vickers trying to do suppressive damage on the Pioneers. And I think this is a lovely example of why you don't get Vickers guns. It's a dedicated machine gun team, but it's barely did a scratch in that Pioneer squad. Like Vickers are just not worthwhile. Even if a bit of veterancy, they're not worthwhile. And Bumblebee is just slowly encroaching Taurus's positions. He's just doing the classic strat, you know, just go around an area, encircle it, and then just kill it from behind. Left hand side though is not looking too good as Tarsus managed to move up quite a bit. And there's nothing really here to stop him at the moment. But we're going to be hitting C phase, got Flam Panzer coming into middle just to burn any last resistance. And now Bumblebee just has a critical amount of tanks at this point. And as we see, C-phase hits, boom, Flam Panzers, autocannon half-track rush. And he's already got the Pain Train Conga line coming down. And considering it's just light vehicles and infantry he has to worry about, this is the perfect matchup for the autocannon half-tracks. Flam Panzer kills the infantry, easy peasy. He's going to be taking fire from a 50 cal half-track, yeah, you know. He can return a bit of fire. He definitely needs an autocannon half-track to help out, as the Flam Panzer's not going to be able to survive against 50 cal. And yeah, he's already managed to move all the way right hand side. We can't see it on the map, but he's definitely shut down the spawn on far right. Yes, we've got Sherman coming in, but once he exposes himself here... Okay, there's no reason. If he does want to try and kill the half-track, he probably doesn't even know what exactly is here. He could probably retake the spawn, but he's going to be moving back to trying to deal with all the tomfoolery happening on the left hand side. And first assassin, it's kind of like Guards Armored, where it just turns into a critical mass of just vehicles. We've got Stug over here, kills the Sherman, rocket run by the P-38, and now Taurus is really going to be relying on his A1 Sherman to try and save his arse, as there's just Stugs all over. And Bumblebee is just taking loads of ground. And on far left, I think the autocannon half-track rush, this is what happened to it, as we can see. A bit ballsy here, just trying to rush right up through the middle. Probably would have been a bit better if he hooked off left and tried to go over here instead. But hey, you know, that was only like a minute, 2 minutes worth of points lost. That's not a huge deal for Bumblebee in this regard. He's finally got a proper tank on the left-hand side. Well, Panjäger's Stug is a bit debatable whether it's a proper tank, but that's a story for another day. Nonetheless, it's an armoured thing with an armoured gun that blows up armour, and it's doing work. The Shermans just don't have the matchup against the Stugs. As in terms of penetration trauma value, it's really in the Panther 4's and Stug favour, as they have a much higher AP gun. And the Volkdeutsche are just slowly moving around. They have to run all the way up here and all the way down to get into position. 76mm coming online, but Bumblebee is just managed to grab so much ground, as we can see. And it's just a slow +3, well, not slow, rather quick +3 point advantage. It doesn't move up anywhere, he just has to hold. And first assess is really good at holding. I see you got all the infantry in the buildings, most of them on hold fire. P-38's flying around, Joe Bumblebee's going to be scaring them off with the anti-air. Finally seeing the first Panther now. And like I said, 1 Panther, 2 Volkdeutsche every 2 minutes. It's nutty for first assess. Absolutely nutty. We got the M7DD being forced to fall back as the Stug moves up as well. And there's really nothing Taurus can do against a Panther. I mean, he can get 76mm, but there's just so much other fire support on the field that 76mm are not going to be able to get that critical shot on the Panther. Got J87G being brought in, a little bit risky, as Taurus is doing a pretty good job of holding the air power, and he's going to get in the J87 Taurus and gets the kill. Good rocket run on the Panther, 76mm. Doesn't have line of sight, yo, so in that critical moment where he could have got a kill here if he had the AT gun nearby, the Panther is going to be able to retreat. Even got a recon plane flying around to spot stuff. And yeah, it's just, I mean, he completely lost the right hand side in terms of, I mean, still has units, yeah, the Voltdeutscher, but just doesn't have any projection. But that's not bad. I mean, still winning by 1,600 points in this case, and he's pushing pretty hard on left. As the artillery gun knocks out 76 mil. I still want to reiterate, I want to see what Bumblebee can see, because, okay, yes, he has alright line of sight in this regard. That's just because he has Voltdeutscher all over the place. There's your bullet magnets. You got the Panther coming over to try and deal with his Sherman. Sherman pretty much can't do anything against the Panther. And yeah, it's just going to be the victory here from here on out. I mean, he's lost a bit of ground, but it's just like a few rifle squads holding some territory. And Tars has done a pretty good job, considering the circumstances, at pushing back. It was a lot too late at this point. And still, Bumblebee's only got like 2 Panthers out of potential like 7 so far in his deck. So he still has a lot of power he can play, but nonetheless, it's going to be a GG. And it's still pretty close in kills, surprisingly. I think it's more towards the end if we just take a look. Yeah, he loses a Panther later on and loses some heavy units wrong. Realize a lot of the American units are rather cheap. First Infantry Division, it's all really cheap stuff. But yeah, early on he loses quite a bit, but you know, it's just a bit of a war of attrition. And it is actually pretty back and forth. I mean, knocked out like some Shermans, a big kill list here from 21 to 18 minutes, yeah. But he loses all his autocannon half tracks, and it's just a bit back and forth. You know, the main thing is he just kept gaining ground, and he managed to play the flanks really well, which was his advantage. Looking at kills, assault teams did pretty well here. Sherman did pretty good knocking out the autocannon rush, and 76 mil. Doing decent as well. I seem losing huge Apache. Yeah. Look at losses. The Panzerjägerstug doing pretty well. The rest helping out, knocking out 3. I was about to say 6. I have no idea why I wanted to say 6. Yeah, probably says 76. 3 anti-tank guns on a Beaufort, which is definitely worthwhile for Bumblebee. Knocking out his AT guns is extremely important for first SS. But pretty spread out all around. And yeah, I mean, that was an ideal opponent for first SS, if you want to win. As first Infantry Division, I'd argue it's one of the like worst divisions overall for the Allied side. And first Infantry is such a hard time fighting proper tank divisions, as they just don't have the anti-tank firepower to keep up. And Bumblebee, as you saw, completely exploited that with all the Panzerjägerstugs and tanks and stuff. Yeah, he managed to brought up. He did take quite a few casualties. And yeah, first SS, it's a really good division. It's very powerful. Definitely deserves a bit of a nerf. But if you want to try him out and see how fun it is to get all the Panthers as you can, then definitely pick up first SS. And yeah, I have no idea what else to really say, so we're going to leave it at that. This has been another Steel Division divisional overview. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as usual, please just take it easy.